Hello, listeners. Hi, my name is Madhavi, and I'm so happy to have you on UppTalk. You have come to the right place if you want to learn about IT and do really cool things with your hands. We are not just another IT company when I say UppTalk. Think of us as your learning partner dedicated to helping you reach your full potential. We have top notch hands on courses to help you build your business, whether you're new to technology or want to move up in your current job. Let's look around this as our first step towards learning.
In the last session, we discussed that. What is? First of all, Workday Prism Analytics. We saw the definition for the Workday Prism Analytics is that Prism Analytics is an analytical tool which helps in analyzing and visualize the data for Workday and non-Workday data together into Workday and without exporting any data to any third-party tools such as data warehouse or BI tools. Previously, what used to happen when Workday didn't have Prism Analytics? We used to export the data to the BI tool, just Power BI or Tableau to visualize it. But to fulfill the requirement to do all the visualization working in a single place, Workday came with the concept of prismalities. Who are the main users of it? Who are the main users of it? Basically, data administrator, data analyst, or stakeholder. Stakeholders use it here. Stakeholders' role is to see the data or monitor it, but the primary users are data administrator and data analyst. Then we reviewed the Prism workflow. What is the workflow of the Prism owner? Macro level, Prism works on get data, repair the data, and analyze the data get the data from Workday and then on non-Workday system. It is not necessary. We always to have a Workday to be combined with a non-Workday resources or sources. But it is if we have only Workday data together. But we want to transform it with something which Workday doesn't support to its reporting requirements, then we use Prism. It's not always necessary to have both of them together. And then, or it's mentioned in prepare the data, what we do is we transform the data. We blend the data sets, apply security permission, and publish the data sets. Transform as in to create various calculated fields into it. There will be too many cal fields. The logic are also given to it. We can create based upon our requirement. These calculated fields are completely separate, which we use in the custom report. In custom report, the customer, the calculated fields will be create multi-instance or single instance or extract single instance from a multi-instance. Those fields are there. Here the cal fields will be substring the text or extract the date or something that blending the data sets, let's say. We have two sources from Workday and non-Workday. We are blending it together or we have already, or we are getting the data from different systems. And we are blending it. We blend these different data sets into one in order to transform it and achieve our goal. Then we apply the security permission. Security permissions is based upon the security domains which we get. But let's say we have the data security in the Workday for a Prism of Hazard data administrator. But there are chances that certain data sets which have very important information about organization, they might restrict it and it is not visible to you. In order to see it, we can restrict it that only few of the data sets are visible to the worker and the sensitive ones, we can secure it in a good way. Then after doing that, we publish the data set. Publishing data sets helps us to achieve the next step, which is the analyzation of the data and to visualize it. Once we publish it, this data is available for the discovery boards and for the custom reports. Let's say if I want to create a custom report into the Workday. Let's assume a scenario where I had the data for the Workday, but I use a different data source. different data source, as in the data coming from SAP, which is not in Workday, but we blend the data together and then we published it. It will be published as a data, a Prism data source. There will be a work delivered data source. There are custom data source, but this is a Prism data source. Let's say we name the data set as per a requirement. A published data set, that same published data set name of the data set will come as a Prism data source when it is published, and the business object will be the same as then coming to the analyze part. Be able to analyze it in the discovery ports and into the Workday reporting based upon the capabilities the Workday reporting gives us. But then this is an overview of the Prism workflow. Now coming to the Prism data management, how the data works. It's a more on a micro level how we see it works. On a EPL model, extract, transform, and load. That is the workflow of it. Here what we do is we get the data, but how we get the data that we will see here. Here it creates tables or create data sets. The data set as in base data set to bring the data. Tables and data sets are very identical in nature, but they are a bit separate. Base data set and derived data sets were already before, but table was introduced by Workday or 2-3 years back only. What is the difference in tables and data set? Tables are created first and then the data is loaded into it. We can assume that the data is static into it unless we refresh it on a manual basis. It's storing our data into a table, but the data set table is that we get the data first, and by that data, the data set is being created, which is a base data set. Here, the data keeps on refreshing as we pull the data from an external system. Tables is storing the data and base data set is get the data. And get it flow to the derived data sets ahead for the transformation. Then, after the first step, we create a derived data set. In base data set, the main purpose of the base data set is to import the data. That cover in detail, but just walk through it on a bigger scale. Data sets are basically used for transforming the data. We transform the data, blend the data with Workday data, with non-Workday data, and transform it, and apply the security. By default, the Workday implicitly applies security to Workday within a data set. Let's take PIM default to data set decoded summon. This is the domain name PIM default to data set. Here what happens is, let's say there is a data set. It has different columns into it. Assume this PIM data set as a data source or a business object. In a business object, there might be different fields. Let's assume we have worker field. Worker field might have worker business object might have different fields into it. Worker then benefit. It will have benefits. It will have a location, address, phone number, primary email. That by using apply security we have control to control the fields that which field should be available to which worker. This is how the security of the Prism works. Then the load data is make this available for analytics by publishing the data set. When data set is published, we are then loading the data and analyzing it as we discussed in the previous slide. Then we come to the setup tenant. I think due to some tenant issue, we weren't able to do this, but we can do this. Basically, it's going through the overview of it, how we do it. Basically, this part has been looked after the security team and they are more aware of how to utilize it. But as a data administrator, it is good to know how we should be setting up the data tenant or how it is set up. First of all, to set up the tenant, we need to enable the Prismatics functional area. For that, we need to go to the task, maintain functional area. This thing is actually coming in between if I'm able to minimize it. Let me go to system and functional area. Any doubt? I'm switching to the slide just in case. I just want to check if the slide is also visible to you. Yes. First of all, to set up a tenant for Prism Analytics, we need to enable the Prism Analytics. It is a functional area. If you might have gone through the Workday training, you might have come across the functional. There are different functional areas. The functional areas have different domain security policies. If we see this functional area, if we filter this functional area by this and search Prism, these are the including domains. First of all, we need to see that Prism Analytics has been enabled or not. If it's not, yes, we need to. What we will do is we will go to the Prism Analytics to access a task which is maintain functional area, functional areas, and here there will. Be different functional areas available and enable it. Let's say the academic advising is not enabled, it's showing this. But if we go here and see reserve analytics, we can see it's already enabled. All the configuration will be already configured. You don't need to delete manually, but it's just a good to know. What we are doing is by enabling a functional area. We're enabling a function or a module into the Workday. By this, the prism will be visible to us. Prism will be visible to us and be able to see this domain as let me open the domains. Let's say some of the tenant they provided me, it's not enabled. We need to enable. First thing is first come here and make sure it's enabled or not. Everybody will have access to enable or only admin. What kind of admin roles we need to have to enable these functional areas? Correct. As we discussed, we won't be doing it as a data administrator because we will be working as a PISM analyst or PISM consultant. These things are basically look after the person who is a data administrator of whole data flow of Workday. That person will look after the data. After it, or a security person if there's a security consultant dedicated to the organizations. They looks after these security rules. Basically, a few years back, Prism and Discovery Dashboard. This both we are available on the basis of subscription basis into subscribe as a service and then only it was available to us but later on they were giving drive or let's say discovery board by default to all the Workday users. But Prism, it's still on a subscription base. Let's say if I enable over here, but still I wouldn't be able to access it. Why? Because my organization hasn't subscribed to this facility or this functional area. Basically a subscription module. If I'm not able to see it, definitely my organization has not communicated with the salesperson or the people who actually deals with this. Communication and all for the Prism got it. Whenever I can, let's say if for testing purpose, they give me one of the tenant or we need to make sure. I need to come here, I need to function area and I can see now either Prism analysis enabled or not. If enabled, only then I can work something, otherwise I cannot work. Correct. There are certain checks which discuss. First check is to that Prism Analytics is enabled or not. Prism Analytics enabling the function that we will be able to work. Here we can see the description that create, edit, update the data. Assets tables containing this. Basically, we are subscribing to this particular service of the Workday, and based upon this, it shows that these are this operational area comes under different domain areas. Yes, if you see this domain areas, going ahead, first of all, we enable the functional area that we will be using. Enable Prism. Prism will be available now. What do is we will use this domain to assign the security. First of all, we did this first step. We saw that enable functional area is now. It will be now visible to us and it's enabled. Then there are two approaches to enable to set up the security for Prism. First one is to create a security group from scratch and add the domains. And the second one is to use the existing security group and edit the security domain policy. Now we will take the first one, that what is the create security group from the scratch. What Workday recommend is to use the unconstrained security group or role based constrained security groups for the Prism configuration. And when the role based security group a constant is created, it is important to select role access. The second option, we need to select that role access. For the further portion, the support. First cover what is Workday. Recommends constrained and unconstrained. If you have idea what security groups, I will walk you through it, have a better understanding on it. If I see view security groups, there are different security groups available. It can, first of all, they are bifurcated on the basis of constraint and unconstrained. Constraint is that I will be able to see the data of that particular role only, and I will be able to see that data for a particular hierarchy. I'm constrained to that hierarchy. Let's say if there's a manager 1 and there's a manager 2. Manager 1 won't be able to see the data for the second manager, and second manager won't be able to see that employees for the manager 1. That's a constraint model. But the unconstrained is that both the managers can see the employee data of each other's hierarchy. Then going ahead, the security groups are bifurcated on different models, such as aggregation of security groups to aggregate different security groups into one, which are used in creating integration or creating the security groups for the integration. Then there are condition rules. Then there are Prism Access security groups. Also there are role-based security groups, and there are different security groups. Let's say if we see the manager security group, if I access security group, tent is working a bit slow. Here is security view, security group, and security manager. This, all the things which we are discussing, this is a good to know information. You may not be using it, but when setting up, let's say you're not able to see any data, you're not able to work on a particular thing, then if this thing, you will be able to ask the security consultant or the data administrator who deals with all this data or to grant you the permission. Here you can see the manager is a role-based constraint security group. Here, when we create a security group, this is a demo which I am showing you. But when you create a security group, which is role-based constraint 1, here the access rights to multiple job workers we have to select role has access as to position they support. Here, what does this mean? This means that the person, the manager, one who has, let's say, 2 workers are there in an organization. Those 2 workers, he will be able to see it. Apart from it, he won't be able to see the other workers. We are considering it that the data is limited to the particular worker only, not the other organization. As we covered this part, we covered how we create a security, means when we create a security group from the scratch, these things are to be kept in mind, that to use unconstrained security group, or if you are using a role-based security group, it will be constrained one. Then the second part over here, yes, the second part is edit security domains. To edit the security domains, what do is we will go to the, let's say if I have this manager role, let's say this manager is there and I want to edit the security rules. I want to enable the Prism for the security particular group. What I will do is I will click this action. One question here, the manager is a default one or somebody else created here? The manager is a role-based security group. Whoever person, let's say, if I become a manager, it's in my role. By default, I will be assigned to that red security group. By default, the work that gives us few security groups which are commonly used, and we edit the different domains into it. Yes, do you want more understanding on the door security part of domain? I want to understand more on that. I will try to cover as much as possible because basically security is a very different concept. I will try to explain as much as possible. Let's say there is a security group. A security group will have different domains. Let's say worker personal data. Then there will be worker compensation data. Then there will be org view. And this is less assumed. This is a drive somewhere, something. Let me enable this. Are you able to see? Yes. Manager, security manager, role-based. Security constraint in the last constraint. Here we can see that there is a security group with the name of manager, and that manager has enabled with 3 domains. Domains are what domains are. Particular. About the worker data, let's say if we see about the worker, data worker might have 2. Many data associated with it. Worker might have personal data compensation, data friend, his address data. It has multiple things. But what if I want to restrict it to the particular data only? Let's say if I want to include workers' compensation data or I can remove it, it's up to me. And this also comes with view and modify access. What does this view and modify access means? Let's say if I'm granted with a manageable access, I will be able to view my own data, which is view and more view data, but I won't be able to modify it. But for my hierarchy, let's say if I have my subordinate, let's have 2 subordinates, employee E1 and employee 2, and I want to see their personal data, then it will be view access for me, but I won't be able to modify it. Why? because I haven't get the modified data for it, because it's the worker's personal information, my multi-audience information, and not mine. Now coming to the compensation data and compensation related data is that manager in that organization have that to do it, then here you and modify access will be granted to that person. Then let's say when the person goes to, let's say the manager, when he goes for a performance review for his organization, for his hierarchy, let's say he did a performance review employee 1, then he will be able to modify his compensation based upon the inputs he got. Let's say based upon performance review, he is getting increment of 80% and he will modify it. Then or give you that the person will be able to see the org of it. Here we grant this permission. Now the security group is granted to a manager, which is manager 1. What I did is, first of all, I created a security group. Security group is a bundle. Security group is a bundle of the domains that the person has, this bundle of domains which he can able to view or either view and modify it. Then I associate this bundle or assign this bundle to a particular manager. Now this worker will be able to access this particular domains based upon view and modify access. Is it clear? Any doubt in this concept? In clear, if you it out, you can ask me. Basically, it's creating a bundle which is a security group. And in this bundle, we will define that. What are the domains this bundle will cover based upon view and modify access, and then we assign this bundle to the manager or any user. This is the concept of security and domains. Domains are minute details of it. If I show in the tenant, it will be more clear for you. Let me show in the tenant. See here, you can see the domain security policy permission. Business process reporting. Here view only access is there. Exit interview we and modify. If a person is leaving from the organization, from the team, then the manager has the access to view and modify the exit interview of it. Then worker data any versus and birthday reports. Let's say here. Let's say the worker is there and the manager is there and he has some subordinates under him. He will be able to see the anniversaries and birthdays, but he won't be able to modify it. Why? Because the view only access is there, and which is also practically correct. Because the manager doesn't have the to modify the personal details of the subordinates. Good. This is the concept of the security groups into the Workday. We assign the security groups by creating it and assign the domains. We discussed upon the two approaches. First is to create a security group from scratch, which is dedicated, such as Prism Data Administrator Security Group. We created a security group, Prism Data Administrator Security Group, and will assign the domains. What domains will assign? Will assign the domains which are listed in this slide. Prism dataset create manage, owner manage. This we will discuss later, but this is the domain and domains which are responsible for enabling the worker to access Prism and work on it. Then once this done, then we are good to go with the Prism development. The second approach is use the existing security group. Let's say there's already a reporting administrator, a security group, and we edit the security domains into it. How do it? We will go to security, group this. Let's say we open a role based constitute security group. Let's say here's the manager, we'll click on it later. Action, and in red action we go to security group maintain. Domain permission for security group in the security section, and we click. It's loading. It might be the morning in the US. Too many people might be using. The demo tenant, that might be the reason, but with too slow. But no worries, here we have mentioned the steps as that. When we do this, configuration over here, on this end we first of all access to all security groups and we access the security of our desired ones. Let's say we want to add it. We already have a report administrator security group assigned to us. We will go to it. Just we went to the manager security group. Once we go it, we click go to later action and go to security group and click on maintain domain security for the security group. Once we go to that particular domain, we need to add the domain security, the domain which we want. I hope this might be open. Let's reload it. Thank you. I think it's taking more time to load. But just for understanding, when we create it, we will under the report and task permission section. We need to search to add the domains in the security policy. There will be a section will be there. Report task permission. That section, there will be two prompts will be available. One will be modify and will be view. Based upon our requirement, we will add the domains. Let's say if we want to add this domain data set, Prism data set create, then we will search that for the view section. Go to the view section and we will add that particular domain into it. Once we do it, it's open. You can see here when we click it, we are into maintain domain. Permission for the security groups. When we scroll down, we will be able to see the important tasks. Under this report and task, we have modify access and view access. Let's say I want to only give a view access for a particular domain. For my domain, if I see that Prism data set manage, I want to only manage. I want to have you only view access to it. For that, I will search the Prism manage over here. Prism manage and add over here in my list. There might be some spelling mistake because of that. It's not coming, but I will be able to add it over here. And let's say if I want to create access, I will search for Prism. And I will get the modify access over here. Just this report management is there. The Prism will also pop up over here. Based upon our requirement, we will give the access depending on the requirement. Here and this, all things might change depending on the requirement as, let's say for now, this is list of only this. Many secure domains are there. It might add or decrease. Depending on the requirement, what happens is Workday might change it. And time to time, but to stay updated, you can go to community anytime and access that. The security domains responsible for Prism Analytics, it will give you list of your domains for which you need to configure your security group for. Once you do this, you need to go this. You need to the task activate pending security policy changes. I will show it how to do it. Can It basically activates the changes which we did. First of all, what we did it is we first of all we identified a security group in which we need to assign the Prism security groups, datasets we want to assign. After identifying the security group, we added a domain, we did the changes, we added the domain, and once we added the domain. We then activate the pending security changes, this over here. By accessing the task, it will show over here the comments that Prism domain name will come that it has been added to the particular domain. We can write out the comment that test or whatever the comment is, or that they are for, or. Let's say we give a ticket number. The security consultant who does this, they give the ticket number that we are based upon the ticket reference of this ticket number for our for. A worker named Rajab, you are assigning the security, and after doing that new changes will be implemented in the system. And any doubt here? This is how we do the setup of the Prism in the system. Generally, if I am working on completely and Prism, then I don't have to worry. Somebody is already enabled, or then only I'll get, or no, I'm going to create my own. I know all these things and I am working on Prism. There is a small companies there. They had for me for Prism. In that case, if there's a small company, whenever any company implements the Workday from the beginning, what they do is they hire any company. This is a light IBM Accenture or Deloitte. These are the implementers partner for Workday. When we implement it, they show that their interest that we want to also implement Workday. They do this on behalf of the company. And they also keep a Spark person or a person who will take after it. They hand over it, they give the KT of it that in future, if they want to do any modification, you can do by this way. But let's say assumes there might be a case where, which is very less, but let's say if there is no one who will do it, then you can follow this step and you can do it. But there are very 0.1 chance that there will be no one to do it in the company. Because the security related things, there will be a person who will be looking after the security of it. Because if there's an issue with the security, whole Workday is of no use. Because anyone can see the data of anyone in the organization and the sensitive information can leak. But still, we are covering this up. We are just if you want to troubleshoot it. Let's say if you are not able to create tables into it, then you will be able to recall it. That, yes, they have covered this thing that if I'm not able to see, then there might be a chance that this domain might not activated for my security group. Then you can approach the security guy or security consultant and ask him to activate this particular domain for you. It's just for our understanding that if you're able to create a data set, but you're not able to create a table, then the issues with the domain, it's an issue with the security, it's not an issue with your system. Correct? Yes. Let's say here what we did is, let's say here we created these things. But let's assume in your case, which you discussed, I covered that topic over here. Let's say if there's a domain, there's the missing domain. Let's say if the domain is missing for Prism to Prism table create, you are not able to create. You are able to create data set. What you will do is we will access the task called domains. We will go to the Workday, will search for all domains. This is a report, Workday level report. It will show all the domains which are available. Here we will search for the domain. Prism table create. We will filter this out. And as we can see, what to is search for the required missing domains. And then we go to the later action of the domain. I did the domain security, policy and data security. Group, how will you do it? We first of all filter out the domains by going to all domains tasks. We got the missing domain, that this domain is missing because I'm not able to create a table, and we click on it and go to domain and edit security domain policy. When we open this, it will ask for, with security, what permission should be given. It's the reverse of the thing. Either we can create a security group and give the domains to it, or we can go to the domain and enter the security group that with security group should come from. Here you can see there are already some security groups mentioned over here. When we create to edit, we can see report and task. In our security also, we will be able to see the report and tasks here. We can add the security groups or we can edit the existing ones. And here the implementer is there, resume is there. We can search for the manager, that manager over here. Now the manager will be able to also get input. Manager security group will be able to add it. Or report administrator, we will try. Valid policy. They have now restricted this policy that it should be only accessible to these particular security groups only. Here we can see the list of the security which are eligible for this. Here let's say we created view as the view implement. We can click on it and it will show you that will give us alert that we should be given view, access or modify. But for it we need to give both, click on view and modify, and within we will give, once we give it will be saved, and to activate it we will again go to the task active pending security policies in changes and comment or whatever the comment which you want to give and save. This is how we configure the security in the Workday, how we set up the Workday. This is security, but in terms of setting up the tenant, not a security, as in giving a security to a data set. This is a security in terms of not accessing the Prism at all from scratch. Any doubt? Tool here. Can you go to some domains you should write? One of the slides, there are some. These are the I make sure these domains are enabled in, just in case. These domains are enabled and then only I can do all these things, at least create, manage or whatever. Even if there is called tables, manage or how that prism I need to be. All these basically complete set. Let's say this is a whole list for which the domain should become configured into the security in order to complete function into it. Got it. This is a minimum for Prism. Yes, minimum for Prism. Here you can see there are two very similar data domains. One is Prism Table Manage and Prism Tables Owner Manage, and the other one is Prism Dataset Manage and Prism Dataset Owner Manage. What is the difference between these two terminologies? This is also just for understanding. The person who has only Prism Dataset Manage, that person will be able to edit and modify the dataset which is already available, but he won't be able to delete or publish that dataset. But the person who has the access for Prism dataset owner manage, that person will be the owner of the dataset. He'll be having the owner access and he will be able not only to modify and edit the dataset, but also he will be able to publish the dataset and also he will be able to delete the dataset, as basically it gives a master access of it. These these are the configuration done on the basis of the security which your company wants to give. Sometimes what happens is to not to accidentally delete any data set. Some organization, what they decide is to only give the Prism data set manage access. And the table manage access means they will give all the access, but they won't give the owner manage access to the developer, because they might also delete the existing data set, which might create a big disaster. In order to avoid it, you only give this. But some organization there, what they do is they give a training in advance that the developer are mature enough, and they don't do such things. Let's say if you are in future, if you are able to only edit or modify the data set and you are not able to delete or publish it, or same as for tables, then you can come to a conclusion that you don't have this particular security for your security group. Your security domains are missing in your security group. This is the exhaustive list, which is this full list that it by that you will be able to start with the Prism. If any of this is missing, you won't be able to completely function to the Prism. Can you share the details, the slide or that? I will share this slide. Basically, I am updating this slide based upon as we are advancing it. I will surely share this slide with you once it's done. But meanwhile, what I can do is you can take the snapshot of it. And if you want to practice, you can practice it. But within 2-3 days, or maybe by Thursday, by I think from Monday, I will share this whole slide with you. Because there are some new release going on, which released on this 27th September, which are to be incorporated in this sheet. That's the reason I am sharing it. If you want to practice it, you can take the screenshot of it, and as soon as I complete my editing, I will share it with you. Sure, I'll do that. I hope all the things which we discussed regarding the setting of the tenant and how we set up the Workday here, it's all clear to you. I have to practice. I didn't get some to practice today. As we move ahead, we will see the dataset concepts. But before going to that, first of all, understand regarding the data catalogs. Data catalog is what data just when we create a report is already embedded in the system in the Workday. But data catalog is an environment that's what dedicated for the Prism Analytics working. When we go to data catalogs, we will be in a Prism environment which is very separate from the Workday. It is definitely integrated to it, but it is dedicated environment for the Prism Analytics working. Yes, I will store the navigation in it, or we navigate it internally. As you can see, this is a data get log. You can see it's very different from the environment which Workday has. Here, this is a create task from create. We can create a table or derive data sets, or this for base data set. These are the various methods as FTP file and custom reports and data change tasks and connections. But from it, here we can filter it out based upon the tables or data set which you want to see. If I click data sets, I'll be able to see all the list of the base dataset as the derived datasets. If I go to tables, I'll be able to see all the tables into it. If there's a case I'm not able to see my table over here, that might be sounds that a filter is applied over here, which is last data load, which is last 7 days. If the data is being loaded or data has been data set, table has been modified in this past 7 days, that will only appear. I can unclick it and then I will be able to see it. If I'm not able to see it, I can give the refresh over here, then it will refresh it. Then these are the connection and data change tasks. These are basically connectors with the tables and data set to update it with the latest data, which is coming outside of the Workday or within the Workday from report or any integration. Then the data change activities. If we see the data change activities here, we can see that. What are the activities? Is if any data set data is, there is a data change into the table and we will able to see whether that data change activity has been completed or not or is still undergoing. By that, if let's say if I have any connecting sequence of it, let's say if the date table is not only updated and the rest data which is dependent on it, it won't get updated. That I can come over here, I can see if my, let's say if I'm in report or if I have any data output is coming wrong, then I can come and check that the still if it's in progress and I won't be able to see the correct data. Likewise, here we can see the data. Data set activities. Data set activities are which data sets are updating from it. Here you can see that people are updating different data set over here. And if it's coming from SFTP or file, from file that, or if they're successfully loaded. It's a frequency on a daily recurrence. Let's say if there's a daily recurrence and my 2 days load is being still loaded, then I won't get the correct data. Here I can also see that the role published is there or not. It not only see if the new data is being coming or not, it also shows me that published data sets. Let's say I published a data set. When I go to data set, it will only show me some certain records of that 50 up to 20K or 50K records of the data set. But if I want to see that how much total rows are published, I can say to a seat or over here, I can see that one data or one rows are published or two. A 2 likes data is being published or not, and this is a Prism usage in. Prism usage, be able to see how much the memory is being used by Prism or how much loading capacity is being utilized by Prism. This matters a lot when we do the day clean activity, and a day clean activity is being based in the come in the organization. We generally refer to this and we see that are there any data set which are using more space and which are not required. Let's say here I can see if I filter it on a descending order, I can see that this data set is using 156 MB and I can see it's not ever published, but it is not only used anywhere and I can contact this person who is the owner of this or the creator of this. I can say if this is not required, I can relate it. By that it won't use much data in the Prism. The more the data usage, the more the tent will work slower. Here I can see 1.8 million rows are published. There are two basically impacts of it. One, the number of datasets which are created, and one dataset which is in published. The published ones occupies more space into the Workday. Here we covered this whole panel. Here there are different datasets or tables which we can see. If we see over here, we can see this dataset here, that different datasets are the type of it. Derived dataset tables, or if I am able to apply the filters, I will show you. Base dataset derived from FTP. Base dataset by the file upload or base dataset from Workday reports. Then these are the types of base datasets. Then derived datasets and tables. Here it shows how much recently it got updated and when it was last modified. This is the inspection panel. Inspection panel is seeing the details about the dataset. Let's say I click on this particular dataset. I would be able to inspect it in more detail. First of all, what will be the API name? Whenever you create a dataset, automatically API name will be generated. And it's a unique one. Let's say if the name of his daily cost estimated data DDS, and moving ahead, if I think of changing the name of the data set, then API won't change, it will remain the same. Here you can see the API name is this one and the report name is something with a data plus driver. Both the names are different. Why? Because initially the API name would be different and they might have changed it once the dataset is created. We can change the API name and this API is used our unique crowd of Workday and are used for calling the data, put the data using integration when required. Here again, also name the description of it that if it's a base dataset, we might mention the source of the dataset from where, what is the source of this data which we have ingested and what this dataset it has. Data consists of and when to use one question. Then when you're talking about the API, are we using API name somewhere else? Just it creates a bit. What exactly the importance of APIs? API for here it's for indicates and purpose only. It will be used by the indication and integration team more when the integration they use the studio, especially the studio, not the EAB and core connectors. EAB and core connectors, the templates are already available. But when we are fetching the data using Studio, we use this API name. We call the API. For us, it's not much, for our reference only. But when they ask us to give the API name for particular data set, we can go over here and provide this API now. But we don't actually deal with any API by calling or getting a data or putting any data somewhere or storing a data somewhere. Here we can see this. Who last modified it that if let's say someone did a change and now there is any error showing. Let's say here stage alert is showing I can contact this person, that what changes you have done to my data set and the security to it. We can see the word security is being applied when it was last published, that we can see the freshness of the data if it is not been published in month and we have done the changes, then it won't add the changes into the published data set. And we can see the dependencies. Dependencies as in let's say if this data is future connected to other data set, then we can see the dependencies of it. If I modify, I can know from here that this list of data sets will be affected if I change the data set. Likewise, this is the import data set that I'm importing data for this data set from these many data sets or tables. If I do any changes in this data set, then there are high chances that those changes will impact this current data set. Here we can see imported by none because there are no dependencies. Then we can also tag our data set. Let's say if I'm working for a project business for payroll, I can go to the data set and I can tag it. When we create a multiple data set, you want to filter it out. We can see there are two main lists of data sets available. To filter it out, we can go to filter and we can filter it out based upon the payroll or whatever we were to give the name of it or the name of project. Data changes, data change task. What are the upstream data change tasks are going or downstream are there? Then we can see the fields, whatever this fields, this thing is covering up. This thing has account, company, call center. These are the fields available, and we can see the symbol of it. This is a numeric field. This is a text field. This is a date field, and this is a text field that. Please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us sales@therightuptalk.com.